So, fiducia supplicans, okay? It's important to condemn it, yes, okay? But we can't take our eye off of the dubia, particularly dubium number 1, because it points out the heresy in Amoris Laetitia. It points out the heresy in the Pope's motu proprio ad theologium promovendum, and it points out the heresy of the synodal final report, and also of the German synodal way, right? And if that's not, if we do not condemn that in the strongest terms, right, that heresy is going to be allowed to circulate through the church and all of our organizations and institutions, including your local Catholic school. Okay, and that's what we're coming to right here. In my last article, I talked about how the Jesuits have appointed a new director for LGBT activism. And I pointed out in this article that you know, if you've been following the news on the Synod, that it was broken into 2 phases. 2023 of October was the first phase, excuse me, and then the second phase is going to happen in October of this year, 2024. So I broke some news on my last, a couple of blogs ago, a couple of posts ago, that 2024 is nothing more than, the implementation of the 2023 Synod. Okay, so it's basically the implementation of the 2023 final report. They're going to be implementing this idea that science can change the church's teaching on sexual ethics. Okay, so who is this person? Who is this new director? It's a former Boston Globe reporter by the name of Michael O'Loughlin. He's been appointed, his new position is executive director of the pro-LGBT ministry Outreach, which was founded by Father James Martin. And their mission is to organize and fundraise for this synodal implementation, right? The implementation of doctrinal change, right? That we can change our divine revelation on sexual ethics, right? By following science, right? Okay, so we've got this new national mission to further the goals of the Synod, to implement the Synod's goals. And Michael O'Loughlin is part of this LGBT ministry, which is doing that. Well, they just published an article by a theologian that has 2 proposals for the Synod, okay? And, I predicted all of this. I told you this was coming. I've been warning you this for years, right? And John Zmirak, too. Don't forget John Zmirak. He was the first one, okay? All right, this is a screenshot from Father James Martin's tweet. Catholic moral theologian James Keenan, S.J. That's the guy pictured up here, right? That's a priest, right? In the vest, open collar and vest. That's Father James Keenan of Boston College, in preparation for the Synod, calls for a moratorium on using the language of disorder when referring to LGBTQ people, as well as the firing of LGBTQ employees from Catholic institutions. That's not exactly what his article says. It doesn't say Catholic institutions. He's calling for a moratorium on the firing of LGBTQ educators. I told you they were coming for your schools, okay? They're coming for your schools. They're saying, don't fire LGBTQ teachers, okay? And furthermore, don't use the language of disorder when describing homosexuality because it's hurtful or whatever. Well, let me tell you something. That's doctrinal, okay? If you cannot refer to homosexuality as disordered, how are you going to teach sexual ethics in a Catholic high school? Okay? You're not. Okay? And that is the real mission here. The Synodal Final Report said that the Church's teaching on sexual ethics can change according to science. And Father Keenan's 2 proposals are to do just that. We're no longer going to use our understanding of homosexuality that comes from Romans 1, right? It comes straight from Romans 1 that it's disordered. No more St. Paul, No more Romans chapter 1. Now it's going to be science. Masters and Johnson, Sigmund Freud, you name it. You name some science fraud, and that's what's going to be promoted in the Catholic Church from now on. Okay. So his proposal, stop using the word disorder in reference to the LGBT community and don't fire LGBT teachers, right? So, and that's exactly what this, the consequence of that is going to be that you can't teach Catholic sexual morality in Catholic schools any longer, okay? I warned you that this was coming. John Zmirak warned you that this was coming. This is exactly what they're doing, and this is exactly what Michael O'Loughlin's job is over at Outreach now. Okay, they're forming these communities, and this is their proposal. All right? Okay. So let me give you a little bit more of my synopsis of my article, my previous article. So if the Synod is promoting doctrinal change on homosexuality, as Cardinal Zen stated, as the Dubia Cardinals have affirmed, then Catholic school teachers can teach that homosexuality is okay. If they are fired, they can sue, and they can say that they were teaching the new Catholic doctrine taught by the Synod, right? The new Catholic doctrine that is stated in the Synodal Final Report according to Bishop Robert Barron. It's also in Amoris Laetitia, as I told you in my book. It's also in Ad Theologiam Promovendum, the new motu proprio, and it's also in the Pontifical Biblical Commission's new book, which I've discussed in previous podcasts as well. Okay. So, we need strong statements from the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops and the world's bishops condemning this heresy, and the Synod. Okay? Condemning the heresy and the Synod, sorry. And if we do this, right, if the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops condemns the Synodal Final Report and condemns this heresy, then we can stop this planned LGBT takeover of all of our institutions, right? This is a hijacking of the Catholic Church. It's a hijacking of our doctrine. It's mass apostasy is what it is. And Catholic schools aren't going to have anywhere to turn if you don't do this, because the courts are going to say, hey, who runs the Catholic Church, right? Does the principal of your local Catholic school run the Catholic Church, or does the Pope, right? Well, Ad Theologiam Promovendum and Amoris Laetitia were written by the Pope. If the Pope is seen as now pro-LGBT, liberal courts especially are not going to be sympathetic to any conservative defense. They're going to say, the Pope changed the Church's teaching on homosexuality, right? You don't have any right to teach if that's what you should be teaching in your Catholic schools, right? Even though that's heresy. Okay. So, in order for this to be done properly, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops must do two things in their statement. They need to answer dubium number 1, and they need to answer it correctly. No, science cannot replace divine revelation ever, and not with regard to sexual ethics, and not with regard to LGBT issues. Okay, that can never happen. Right? That is an apostasy. That is a contradiction, a rejection of the Apostles' Creed, of the Nicene Creed, of our profession of faith. When we say that the Church is one holy Catholic and apostolic, it means it rests on the teaching of the apostles. Divine revelation comes through the teaching of the apostles. Okay? So, we have to condemn the heresy in general, right? Because that will take care of any future documents that should be published. You just have to condemn the heresy outright, okay? But then the other thing that needs to be done is that the documents that already exist that contain this heresy must be condemned. That would be the Synodal Final Report, per Bishop Robert Barron. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have to condemn the Synod, right? Because the Synodal Final Report is what's being implemented in 2024, okay? And that means if the Synodal Final Report says the Church's teaching on sexuality can be changed by following science, then that's what's going to be implemented in 2024. And that's the reason why the Jesuits have set up Outreach as this, excuse me, as this organization for advancing the goals of the Synod. And so we have to condemn, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops has to condemn the Synodal Final Report, so they have to condemn the Synod, and they're going to have to condemn the Pope, right? The Pope, it's in Amoris Laetitia, okay? It's in the Motu Proprio ad Theologiam Promovendum, and it's in the Synodal Final Report, and it's also in the Pope's commission, the Pope's Biblical Commission. It's in the book that was published in 2019. Okay. So, I'm not sure why I've got this back up here, but I've got this is the dubia. This is what the cardinals. This is what the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops has to respond to. They must respond to this. Another thing you should do is you should make copies of this, and you need to send them to your church and pass them out. Okay. If the American bishops fail to act decisively, okay, LGBT activists will search out Orthodox schools and parishes, and they will sue them into extinction. Okay? That's what outreach is for, right? You've already seen Father James Keenan has said, don't fire LGBT teachers and don't teach what the Catholic Church actually teaches about homosexuality, which is that it's disordered, following Romans chapter 1, following the teachings of St. Paul. It's disordered, right? And we can't do that any longer, because Father James Keenan is trying to implement the Synodal Final Report, which says, let's follow science instead of the Bible. Okay? You're not going to have any way of defending your schools, people. Okay? Because if you try to defend the school, you're going to get sued. Okay? And when you get sued, you're going to face a liberal judge who's going to say, Pope Francis changed your teaching. I don't see anybody condemning this teaching. This is the teaching, and nobody said anything, right? Well, if the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops gives their support to the Dubia Cardinals, that's very important. And the other reason, the Dubia Cardinals is very smart, understand this about the Dubia Cardinals. I believe five continents are represented. Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, and North America. English-speaking North America is represented. So with Cardinal Burke. So they've got all the continents represented. And so that's so important, because it shows the Catholic Church is a global church, and to have that kind of representation in the Dubia Cardinals is very important. It's going to be important if a lawsuit ever arises, if this ever comes to a court case or a lawsuit, to show that this is, that there's global recognition of what the Catholic Church actually teaches. All right, so what you have to understand here, and what's very clear with Father James Keenan at Boston College, this organization Outreach, which is an offshoot of America Magazine, which is a Jesuit publication. It's the Jesuits. The American Jesuits are following Pope Francis in waging a war against the church. Okay? Here's an example. Take a look at the screen. This is happening on February 28th. It's sponsored by Georgetown University's Initiative on Catholic Social Thought and Public Life. Georgetown University is a Jesuit university. Okay. I believe Jesuitical is a podcast, and I believe the host is this Zach Davis that you can see on the screen here. These are the people that are participating in this round table, they call it, a listening church in a divided nation, with Cardinal Wilton Gregory. So now Cardinal Gregory is not a Jesuit, but he is he's the Archbishop of Washington, D.C. Georgetown University happens to be in Washington, D.C., so you can see that the Jesuits have the support of Cardinal Wilton Gregory, which is not going to be a surprise to many people who are following this. But take a look at some of the participants, right? You've got the Cardinal there. If he's supporting this movement, he needs to be condemned. He's a heretic. Okay? All of these people right here. Georgetown University. Okay? Look at the young lady on the end, Fatima Vasquez Molina. Okay? She is a teacher at Elizabeth Seton High School. In case you have any doubts about who's being targeted here. They are going after your kid's high school. All right? This is an existential crisis that I've been warning you about for years, that John Zmirak and I have been warning you about for years. I warned you in my book. I've warned you in countless articles and interviews. Well, now it's actually happening. Okay? It's actually happening. Here's another example. This woman, Kim Daniels, is a member of this initiative on Catholic social thought at Georgetown University. She's a professor at Georgetown University. And I caught this interview of her on CNN. This is a long interview. Okay? This interview went over 11 minutes. Most people that get interviewed on television have a minute. Okay? This was an more than 11-minute interview with Christiane Amanpour, and it was completely sympathetic. There was not a single discussion, not a single mention of the Word of God or what the Catholic Church has traditionally taught. What has the Catholic Church taught for 2,000 years? Never came up. It was assumed by Christiane Amanpour. Of course, LGBT rights. Of course, the Church should accept homosexuality. This discussion was all about the Synod, and it was all about the acceptance of homosexuality. I've got the URL up there. You've got to click on it and see how this is being presented. The Synod is being presented by this professor from Georgetown University as a pro-LGBT Synod, right? And at one point, they are laughing about Cardinal Burke, one of the dubious cardinals. Oh, ha, ha, ha. He got evicted from his Vatican apartment, right? So, I mean, they see this as a foregone conclusion. Of course, the Catholic Church should accept homosexuality. Of course, Cardinal Burke is foolish. Ha, ha, ha. He got kicked. Pope Francis evicted him from his Vatican apartment. This is chest-thumping triumphalism. Let me tell you, like I said in my book, in the postscript, I told you that this movement would have the ear of the liberal media. And it's also going to have the ear of the liberal courts. They're going to treat your Catholic school unkindly. Okay? This entire interview just assumed that, of course, the Catholic Church should accept homosexuality. Okay? And, of course, that's what the Synod is about. It's assumed throughout this entire presentation that that's what's going on here. And this shows you the power that we are up against right now. It's the Jesuits. This is a full frontal attack against the Catholic Church in the United States, right? You've got this podcast. You've got the influential Cardinal of Washington, D.C. behind this. You've got Georgetown University behind this. I mentioned the magazine Outreach. Father Keenan is from Boston College, a Jesuit college. You've got CNN doing this. As I said, Father James Keenan, that's his name, right? Yes, Father James Keenan is from Boston College. There is a ton of money behind this movement. The media is backing this all the way, okay? And I'll be honest with you, I don't see anything on our side, okay? I see a lot of people whose heart is in the right place when they're griping about fiducia supplicans, as they should, right? But fiducia supplicans and all the ink that has been spilled on it will not save us from this existential crisis, right? Your Catholic school is about to be shut down, right? It's either going to, or it's going to, the rainbow flag will be flying at your Catholic school, right, by the end of the year. Okay, once the Synod is concluded, or it's going to be shut down. And the only way to stop that is for a statement from every bishop in the world that this is heresy, that this is not what the Catholic Church teaches. This is not Catholic doctrine. It is not, because it is not apostolic. It is an apostasy. It is a falling away from the true faith expressed in the Nicene Creed, which is recited at every Sunday Mass. Okay? And I've got to wrap this up. I'm taking up too much time here. By the way, the title of this man's article was that the Synod should embrace the radically inclusive friendship of the LGBTQ community. So, what does that mean?